Okay, you're on, Chuck.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Urban Files, a show where each week Max and I discuss the latest news about cities and urban development. So, Max and I, again, were just enthralled by our experience at APTA. I mean, I can't say enough about it, and just thank you to everyone that put that conference on. It was a joy to be there. So, when we were there, of course, we talked about a number of things, and one of the primary experiences and themes that we had there was the opportunity to actually go out and see the Beep autonomous mobility solutions vehicles and actually to ride on one of them. In fact, even during that time, we were lucky enough to meet Raquel Essa, the executive marketing director for the company. And we saw an introductory video from her, and we got to, learn from her about the technology, where it's at right now, and some of the different features. So, Max, what was your experience with that situation, and what were some of the things you really liked about it?
Well, yeah, it was my first time riding in a Beep autonomous vehicle. I know you have used it in Tampa, right, during the Super
Yes.
Bowl this year,
Mhm.
earlier this year. But yeah, but for me, it was a pretty straightforward and basic demonstration of uh, of what the vehicle can do in a very sort of um, sterile environment, right? And it was exactly as I suspected, I guess. I think you asked me this in person, like,
Mhm.
and I was like, that's, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And that, that's not an entirely bad thing. Um, but I guess to try and get to the point and answer your question here, there's pros and cons to what Beep and can offer right now. And I think I'm cautiously optimistic that the future of the technology is bright. And so for the company itself, if they can adapt and find ways to maximize the technology and fit where uh, cities are lacking and communities are lacking, then there's a bright future for them as well. So I guess I'm going in a very roundabout way of saying what we saw uh, doesn't seem like a very practical solution for most circumstances. These are very small vehicles and they go very slowly. I think they're legally maxed out at about 12 miles per hour, something like that, right? And because we all had to be seat belted inside the vehicle, there were 4 seats. Am I right? Four
Mhm.
seats.
Yeah, four. I think. I mean, six would have been a tight squeeze in that thing. I
Yeah.
don't think that would have been. It would have been difficult.
So, um, it basically serves as a more comfortable way to walk around a
Yeah.
community. Um, so, clearly, if they can increase that capacity, which would likely require sort of dedicated right of way, um, then that would be a huge improvement. If they can get larger vehicles, that would be a huge improvement. Just whatever they can do to improve capacity, because right now, as it is, you're basically functioning like one of the little golf carts that might take people around a shopping mall or
Mhm.
something like that, where you're providing a service for a few fringe circumstances that people might need and it would be very helpful for, but it's not putting the mass in mass transit, right?
And that's understood. I think really that is one of the major challenges. The fact that it only goes around 12 miles right now. I mean, I know people that were at my high school that could run faster than that in that amount of time. But I think that what it does do is in an area where maybe the mass transit component is maybe a little harder to justify cost wise or a harder sell, I think it's maybe an introduction to the technology and the idea of it. I mean, I think right now their headquarters, as I understand it, is in Lake Nona, and that's really where they have their largest route. I believe we spoke with her about this, and she mentioned around 8 miles of routes and several routes around the city. So in a place like Lake Nona, where you're probably not going to get a links system running through or any type of light rail, I think you could potentially see some benefit. If nothing else, people see, hey, I can do this instead of walking or getting in my car or trying to find parking or whatever. But you're absolutely right that the capacity is an issue. But I guess the funny thing about this is, even despite these issues, it sounds like your hometown of Jacksonville there is still all in on this technology. So, yeah, could you tell me a bit more about your some of your concerns on that?
Yeah. In regards to the Jacksonville project, I'm excited about the potential of sort of transformative technology. I'm just concerned about the incredibly large cost of this sort of prototype that they're experimenting with. Um, where I feel like this isn't a place for sort of city governments to take risks and experiment, and it really should be the city should be utilizing proven technology, and so when the time comes, that's when they should implement it, not now when it's still sort of very experimental. And the other issue, like I mentioned, the capacity issue. And so in some circumstances, the capacity issue could be outweighed by sort of the benefits of something of this type of mobility solution, which would be, I would assume, lower cost of setup and initial sort of construction cost, and then probably a much lower ongoing operating and maintenance cost, as well as sort of flexibility in the routes and flexibility in the type of usage. As I was mentioning, it can serve as a I see it as sort of a circulator. I think that makes a lot of sense as a circulator in sort of an office complex, a large
Kind of a first mile, last mile thing too.
Yeah. Those are the two that I were going to. So I was going to say, sort of a sprawling campus is one, and then second would be sort of like a first mile, last mile outside of sort of a transit hub. And I guess that sort of is the same thing. The sprawling campus, if it's located at the end, if it's located near sort of a major transit station, then that would be sort of what you're saying, first mile, last mile. So those are the benefits. And in Jacksonville, unfortunately, where they're planning to test it out doesn't really fit that very nicely, because sort of the primary trunk right now, that the corridor that they're testing, is really sort of the major artery between downtown and sort of the transit hub in downtown, and sort of an events district, the sports district. So what you need very, very much is high capacity. You need to be able to move tens of thousands of people in an hour, not four people per vehicle, moving at 12 miles per hour. So it doesn't really fit. And so that's I think that's the biggest concern with the project in Jacksonville. That, as well as sort of why the high cost, when we don't know exactly where the ultimate end game will be with this technology. But that said, I know a lot of very, very, very heavy naysayers, and I'm a little bit more hopeful than them, maybe perhaps naively, but I think that I do think that the technology is very promising, and so if we can find the right way to sort of make it fit better, and not just try to force it because it's like a shiny new toy or something, that would be key. And you mentioned Lake Nona, and in Lake Nona, the autonomous vehicles are shared with regular vehicular traffic, And I think that's one of the biggest complaints is that you've got these 12-mile-per-hour little pods moving along, blocking traffic. And so, if you can find a way to make it, have it so dedicated right of way so that it's not going to be blocking traffic, so that you probably don't have to be as concerned or cautious about potential objects in the way, and possibly increase that speed, then I could see a lot more benefit to it.
Yeah. I mean, if only Jacksonville had something like a monorail that could like hold more people and go a little faster than that, No, but I mean, RIP to that. I mean, I think it will be there through at least next year, right? The
Yeah.
monorail.
So yeah. So if you're listening and you don't know, Jacksonville does have a monorail. It does have a decently higher capacity. At least the monorail has the ability to increase capacity very quickly with additional cars. But the reason, but what you're saying, Chuck, isn't exactly an either or thing. It's more that they're looking at this AV solution to replace the existing monorail and
Right.
sort of upgrade the technology, if you will. So
Yes.
so we won't. So that may be that further complicates the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that the monorail has been a smashing success, of course, not even close, but it may be a better solution than what they're looking to switch to. So.
Right. So, and that is true. I think going to what you said about kind of the ability to alter things, I can tell you that Tampa's existing line where they first piloted it was on the Marion Street Transit Corridor, as they're calling it, which basically runs kind of a similar path to what you're describing. It runs from, the Tampa bus station to about a mile on each street, kind of moving southward of that to, downtown, which in a way is a very high usage route. But I agree, like, in order for it to be something that people would consistently use rather than just like, hey, let me try this thing out, like it would need to have a higher value. And so I guess the question is, how could you see, if at all, could you see this kind of technology evolving to where it actually is able to maybe go a little faster and support the numbers that would make it more viable?
So this is this is a very open-ended question. I think, among the pros that I mentioned earlier, I think one of the key ones is the flexibility. And I feel like that really that's a huge strength in an environment where sort of the pedestrian traffic patterns might change from time to time, in sort of like a sprawling office complex or something like that. This could function as a circulator for office workers, for people who are in the area, who need to be in the area. And the fact that it can be flexible, that it's not sort of this fixed route forever within the context of sort of a sprawling campus where people need to go in different directions. I think that's beneficial because you can help move people, and you're not sort of set to one thing long term. You don't need to do a lot of studies to see which routes might move the most people during lunch hour or whatever in this campus. And then you could have more people going to sort of the parking garages at the end of the workday, and more people moving in different directions at certain times of the day. And then, I mean, adding more capacity with more vehicles, just being able, just all the sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but just, versatility and flexibility, I think it is definitely an asset. And so when you think of that first mile, last mile in sort of an urban setting. We'll go back to that. There are times where this vehicle can be sort of a higher capacity thing in a dedicated row, where you need to move more people at a higher speed. But then it can break off from sort of that dedicated row and then go into mixed traffic on its own. If there are times where you utilize sort of like an Uber, like going back to another show that we talked about, sort of Uber technology, where you have the flexibility of changing routes at any given time and going to pick up certain passengers or certain destinations just sort of on a case-by-case basis. This allows for that type of flexibility. So, if they can do things where they're sort of modular and adding, you have 2-3 cars going in one direction, and then you add on a couple more on the way, and then they kind of break, and go different ways based on the needs of whoever happens to be sitting in the vehicles at the time. All of this stuff, I know it sounds sort of futuristic and sci-fi, but this is the biggest strength of this type of technology, I would say. And so, that figuring out a way to sort of match that with the places that need that kind of thing, that would be the best way forward, and that might just take time.
Well, I think shopping complexes, especially, and a lot of places in America that aren't serviced by transit right now, the Lake Nonas of the world, the Yellowstone National Parks, actually, of the world, among the places that are being served. I think Peoria, Arizona is one of the other cities that is listed. I think those places that don't have anything right now, it's something, and it's it's not something that's a high budget thing. And as you said, I think technology could evolve, and it could kind of give a flexibility that other modes may not necessarily bring. So, I mean, like you, I'm kind of excited to see where the technology goes, and I'm thankful for being there and kind of showing off what they had to offer.
Yeah, I think what we can agree on for sure is that for the time being, for the foreseeable future, this is not a replacement to sort of like high capacity mass transit in any way. I mean, there may be complementary uses, but it's not going to replace a functioning mass transit system.
No, just the volume of that alone is going to be off the charts in terms of, any study you read, you get about 10 times the yield from a light rail line, even compared to like a bus rapid transit system, which obviously is getting higher yield than this probably would for some time.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of wrapping up here, but I'm just gonna like introduce another tangent, which is that like I said, the strength is the flexibility. But because of that, one of the core benefits of mass transit, a fixed mass transit, is transit-oriented development, TOD, where you get millions, hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars of investment along the fixed corridors of mass transit. And so that's certainly not something that you'll see from this type of transit, being that it is so flexible and so impermanent.
Correct. Yeah.
And a mistake, if we can call it a mistake, it's a very intentional mistake most of the time, I think, is places claiming and projecting the same type of transit-oriented development that you see with light rail, for something like this, when that's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah. Cool. Well, anything else to add?
I think that really covers it. And again, it was enjoyable to discuss this, and really kind of, like you said, I think I'm really excited to see where this goes when we go probably to, or at least I plan on getting myself to APTA 2023 to see what the technology's improved to.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Sounds good, Chuck. As always, it was a pleasure.